Mr. Pence from Indiana. Is Mr. Pence available?
Yes, thank you, Chair
You're
Doyle.
recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Doyle and Ranking Member Latta, for holding this important hearing today, and thank you to the witnesses for appearing before the committee. For rural districts like the one I represent in southern Indiana, the pandemic highlighted a clear division of opportunity that exists between rural communities and our urban counterparts. There's no doubt that each of us here have heard stories of students sitting outside restaurants or gas stations to access Wi-Fi to participate in remote learning when their classrooms were closed. Unfortunately, that was nothing new for Hoosiers living in my rural communities. In my district, even before the pandemic hit, I knew students that would drive to the local McDonald's just to complete their homework because a broadband connection to their home was unavailable. This situation was not because their family didn't want to adopt internet service, but because there was no service provider in their area. Just the other week, I had an opportunity to sit down with both Hancock Regional Hospital and 9 Star Connect, a rural broadband provider in Greenfield, Indiana. Together, this team made extraordinary strides in making broadband connections to unserved areas to make sure the community had access to telehealth services. As a result, physicians at Hancock Regional were able to develop a portable camera system for COVID-19 infected patients to connect with infectious disease experts located at neighboring hospital systems. This application is just one example of how telehealth is a wave of the future for rural patients often living several hours away from healthcare services. As telehealth became more critical during the pandemic, more and more physicians found that they could operate in the same fashion as in-person visits for pre-screening, post-follow-up, or rehabilitation services, just to name a few. However, these innovative techniques will only get us so far without reliable access to a broadband connection. Rural internet providers in my district, like New Lisbon Broadband Company, Smithville Communications, and Decatur REMC, are community institutions on the front line of closing the digital divide. Our efforts should be focused on leveraging their expertise with federal resources to more efficiently deploy infrastructure into remote and unserved populations. Rural patients, seniors, veterans, and other unserved, vulnerable communities need to be our first priority when we talk about broadband equity. Mr. Ford, I'm concerned policies being pushed by the majority will shift federal attention away from areas that are completely unserved and towards areas that are looking for faster speeds. Before we talk about 100 symmetrical upload and download, let's figure out how to connect the remote parts of our country that have been living on the wrong side of the digital divide. My question: how could proposals like the Democrats' Lift America Act and President Biden's infrastructure plans lead to unintended consequences and exasperate the digital divide in rural America? And, in contrast, how would focusing finite resources on unserved rural Americans help bridge the broadband adoption gap?
Well, I think you made the point pretty clearly. You're going to distract attention, and there are limited resources for building network in this country. It's not like you can just go get anybody in the world to string fiber. I mean, those resources will get redirected to urban areas that may be more profitable to upgrade than rural areas that may be very expensive to deploy to. I think the point of my testimony is to focus on the problem, and that problem is getting broadband where it is not, and addressing the people who don't have it or don't buy it that do have access to it and forget about the rest. Because you've got to prioritize where you're going to focus your attention and you're going to focus your dollars, unless there's just an infinite sum of money available. And these days, I'm starting to wonder if that's the way people think about it.
All right,
Gentlemen's
thank you.
time
Before I
expired.
yield.